Wow, that was a lot.
All right. Well, that was hard work, wasn't it?
That was hard work, but you got there, so that is good.
Yeah.
So how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
How was your Memorial Day weekend?
It was very nice and quiet. We didn't have anything that we had to do. So that was wonderful. Yeah. Because this whole book has been taking off at such a rate that it's been whoo, hard to catch our breath. But it's good. It's very good. Are you there? Hello?
Did it freeze up on you?
Yeah. And I didn't touch it.
Yeah, I know.
Hello?
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, good.
I don't know what happened, but I got kicked off.
I was talking, and all of a sudden I wasn't talking.
No, you were good and you kept going, and I don't know what happened to my end. So that sounds like a relaxing time, which is great. You need it.
Yeah.
If it goes out, just you close it down and you open it up, Katie.
Oh, okay. Okay. So tell me how's it been? Last week you had a bunch of interviews still. Does it seem like it's slowing down a little bit with your interviews, or they're still coming?
They're coming from amazing places. The whole British Empire, from London to Canada to New Zealand to Australia to India. It's been that has just taken off. And tomorrow afternoon, I'll be talking to a lady from India, and so it's a global thing that's happened. I'm in total awe.
Did you have any preconceived thoughts about any of this and how it would land for people?
I couldn't have imagined this. I would have loved to have people reading the book and understanding it and all of that, but to have this kind of acceptance from so many different languages and countries and so on, it feels like we as a human race are are in the process of reaching up for some more deeper understanding of who we are. And I think it's happening all around the world. And so it's kind of like when you hear something that rings true to you, you think, oh, yes, that's it. And the nice thing about this, Katie, is when we began talking about the title of this book, I really didn't like it, and I was kind of backing off from it until Doug Abrams said, well, we're not talking about you, we're talking about the people who are going to read it.
Right.
And that shift made it for me much more acceptable, because I was really interested in reaching out to people who could get this message, and it's happening. So, wow.
It's just such a beautiful thing to witness, the unfolding and just the flourishing of it, and to see just how it's taken on a life of its own. And you're just, and you're riding it, and it's so great.
Because it seems to be speaking the truth to people at levels of consciousness that we really have been waiting for and knowing that was there, but how do we communicate it,
Right.
And so that we can begin to actually live, not begin to continue to actually live it.
So I have a question that I think we're going to lead into when we talk about, the first secret of the book and purpose and all of that stuff. So was this book in your, like, how long had you been wanting to write this book?
I think at a soul level, most of my life. In other words, I wrote the other books before because they were medical or they were about birthing or they were about specific. But when it came down to basically trying to express what it feels like to be a human being, reaching for what it is that we came here to do, that was something that was deeper, and I never imagined that I could do it until Doug Abrams and Idea Architects reached out to me and said, look, we could help you with this, and here we go. And so that, it was, again, the fact that it takes a community. It takes this kind of thing doesn't happen by itself. I couldn't have begun to do it if John wasn't here or you weren't there or, Chandiga, all the different people who fit into the community that helped to bring these words into focus enough that other languages could take up on them, which is isn't that amazing?
Yes, and what I find so amazing and beautiful about it is that if this, like you say, on a soul level was in you and, just percolating and ripening and doing all of the things that it's all about, sort of the timing of it, that just somehow the time had ripened, right? The karma had ripened for this to really take on a life of its own, and the people that were going to help you to pull it out of you showed up when the time was right, and look at what it's doing. The time is right, and that's why it's just going everywhere.
Yes, because the human race is reaching for something deeper within ourselves. I mean, I think it's our own evolving consciousness that is what we're working with. That's why you can, it's been translated into Spanish and German and, different languages, so that the message is it's cross-cultural, cross everything.
Yeah, it's a universal language.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, and so that sort of ties in then to what we wanted to talk about purpose. And that's one of the secrets. The first secret in your book is about finding your purpose, or having a purpose.
Your purpose, being here for a reason.
So can you talk about that a little bit? Like, that's a hard thing for people to grasp when they feel like they have no purpose. And they're like, I know I should have a purpose, but I don't have a purpose. I don't know what it is. I'm confused.
Well, and sometimes the purpose changes. Sometimes you thought, you were working towards something, and then something happens, and your purpose is either tossed or what you thought was your purpose is is taken away from you, or something happens, or you suddenly get a deeper insight into what your purpose could lead into. And you shift. So it's not like your purpose is something that you're born with, that you will have the rest of your life. You may, but it may not. It may be that the way it expressed itself while you were in a certain condition of evolving posture. In other words, while you were still a student, or while you would have first started some kind of work, or some kind of evolving, something, and then all of a sudden it's not there. What do you do? If you actually allow yourself to get bogged down and say, I'm done, then you're done. But if you say, no, it's hiding someplace. It's in me. There's more here. I need to look further, or I need to look in a higher direction, or maybe there's someone else that could help me with this. It kind of reminds me of my daughter when she was 3, my eldest daughter, and she was trying to tie her shoelaces. And so she wasn't making a very good job of it. So I went over to help her, and she stomped her foot and wagged her ponytail. And she says, no, I'd rather do it my own self. So I backed off, and you've been watching. All of a sudden she stopped, and she put her head back, and she said, if you ever help me now.
That is so funny.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
But sometimes those things happen. Something, a divorce, a death, or a thing, you move or something, and you just put your head back and you howl and say, if you ever help me now. That's worth doing, if that comes along. If it doesn't, and you gradually see a little thing here that, like, for instance, another visual that I have is that if we are going along our path with our flashlight, and we've talked about this before, on our path, and our flashlight's strong, and we can take one step at a time and go further. But maybe we see somebody who has a flashlight, but their light isn't quite as strong as ours is. Maybe we can reach, our light over to make their light a little stronger so they can see. In other words, if we can actually accept ourselves as being in a community of human beings whose very sole purpose is evolving, then we can reach around and look around and see, well, maybe I can help over here, or maybe, this, it's a allowing the light to shine, because the light is there. It just doesn't shine where we're looking.
So that, I have 2 thoughts on that. And one is, I was reading your book this morning, and I was reading about the purpose and when you were a little girl, and the whole story about the elephant.
Yeah.
And, it was at that time that you realized that you really did want to become a medical doctor, because that was such a powerful thing for you to see how your mother was able to take care of this elephant amongst all the other people that she cared for. And, that I was 16 when I realized that I wanted to become a chiropractor. And so that really led me, and it just was my anchor, and I could just keep going forward. And so, like you, even with the, dyslexia that you had and the challenges that you had, it didn't really matter so much, because you always knew you had this thing out there that you were going to do and become.
What was it that brought you into chiropractic?
I hurt my knees when I was playing field hockey in high school, and my mom was seeing a chiropractor, and he was like the most magical. He was like an elf, literally. He was like this, such a magical old man who was just connected to all of nature. And when I went to see him, he just, I don't know what it was about what he did and the connection he and I had, but I left there and I was like, that is what I need and want to do. And I never looked back. And I struggled to get through school, and it was super hard, and I had to take chemistry over again, and it took me forever. But I just always had this, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I feel so grateful for that. So I know all the people out there that haven't ever found that thing that has been the draw for them. It can feel probably really, they can feel really lost in that.
Absolutely. And then there may be those out there who like the little elf chiropractor, had a light that could light up your flashlight.
Right. Right.
If we're not looking just for ourselves, but we're looking for our whole human race, and aware that it's that kind of consciousness we're talking about. It's not just getting a degree,
right,
which is important to get to where you're going to go, but to be reaching for it. It's that ability to keep going no matter what. And on top of which is the beautiful opportunity that we have to help each other.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, the visual I had was just like a fireflies. And if my purpose in life is to have my little firefly light be as bright as it can be, regardless of what I'm doing. I could be gardening, I could be, just pushing a stroller with babies. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but if your light is that bright that you are going to ignite the light in others, then who needs that? I mean, that's a beautiful purpose and offering in the world.
And sometimes you find yourself at a purpose where you're calling on other people to help you. Like my daughter, if you ever help me now. You feel like you're stuck and God, this is awful.
Right.
And, so it's it's living in the moment to the point where all of a sudden something can happen that awakens you. It's like waking up with a dream that says, oh, yes, that's what I'm looking for. Oh, that's what's helping me. Or, no, maybe I don't need that anymore. Maybe I need to clean that corner of my living room so that it's insights that we get from within ourselves, which is where the essence of who we are is. And it's that physician within us who knows whether we need an antibiotic or we need actually to get up and take a walk out in the woods.
Right.
Or, it's no one can tell us. We have to find it ourselves.
Right. Have you ever heard, in that whole idea of finding your purpose, I've heard across the board with lots of people in self-help and all that stuff about thinking back to when you were young and what really lit you up as a young child, and whether that was playing with, whatever it is. And going back to that can be a really helpful stepping stone along the way, because you had no filter then. You just did what you were playing in a way that your soul was designed to play, that it just came in to do. And so I always have found that really interesting to think back of like, well, what did I love to do when I was little,
That's,
and creative. And
yeah. What was it that connected you to made you just jump up and start to sing, or to look farther away, or maybe closer at home?
right.
It nobody can tell you that. It's something that when you see it, when you like you did to your little elf chiropractor, when you got that connection, you made the connection.
Yeah.
It was an elephant.
Right.
It's and sometimes it's not one thing. Sometimes it's just little by little we begin to understand, oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Or oh, that was a good one. And then you say, what do I mean by that?
Mm.
And it's if we're actually longing for understanding of who we are and what our purpose here is, and we really want to know, it'll come to us.
Mm.
And it's like my daughter, when she said, you gotta help me now, I came to her. It was, it was that point in her shoelace tying
Right.
consciousness that she needed help. But for me, it was so important, as far as the metaphor was concerned, of how we really can be stuck sometimes and do have to ask for help.
Mm. And I wonder if the timing of the book and your message is also even just so powerful now, because we're just on that backside of COVID.
Absolutely.
When people were asking those questions because their jobs were disintegrating right and left, or they realized that, what they had been doing wasn't really what they wanted to be doing, and life's too short.
Absolutely. And people died.
Yeah.
People that they were depending on, that were part of their future, part of who they thought they were, died. I mean, life changed.
Right. And I just, it feels like, and I've heard people saying, oh, we're getting back into life. Like, we're not thinking about it as much. People are traveling again, and they're going out, and they're doing all the things. And you just hope that there's enough people that have sort of had that light flick on inside of them, so that they're not going to go back to the same way that they've been doing their life, if it wasn't working.
Yeah. Well, it's like the fog is lifting. It's like after World War II, which I remember very well. During World War II, everything stopped, just like it did with the COVID thing. And then the soldiers came back, but some didn't. And other things happened, and women were working, and they weren't going to go right back to the house. They found they could do there was a shift in the consciousness that affected the whole world. And that's what happened with COVID too. And I think we're on the kind of an upsweep, I guess you could call it that, from that dark time when our world was under a cloud of something that we didn't understand. And now the light's coming back. We're beginning to light upside, and we're beginning to see things that were not were not available to us before. And if we're looking for that, it's there. It's there. The thing that's right for us is there.
Right. Yeah, it's so interesting to me too, just thinking about this now and having this conversation, is that, you know, this was in you all along, but it was really birthed in the middle of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
In the darkness of all of it, you were able to really birth this beautiful message that is just going everywhere.
Well, and one person is finding it and giving it to another and another and another.
Right.
It's the way life needs to move. You know, we find our purpose and then we move. And we move in a way that connects us with the world around us. And no matter what that connection is, we find it. Mm-hmm. Because we're looking.
Right. Right. And staying open.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sort of like, oh, that's interesting. Curiosity.
Right.
We downplay the importance of curiosity in our lives. If we are curious about why things happen and how they happen and who they happen and what they, you know, all of the who's and what's and whys are important if we begin to pay attention to them. Why does that person come into my life, you know?
Right.
Or who said that?
Right.
Who did you're talking? Who sang that song? Who
right.
painted that picture? You know, it's that kind of a awareness that curiosity is looking for, and saying, oh, yes.
So do you think that, you know, from the very beginning, you had this desire and purpose that you knew about becoming a physician from the beautiful gift of your parents and seeing what they did and how they helped, and having a mother that was so ahead of her time to be a medical doctor, you know, back when she was. But would you say, so that's this underlying purpose that you've had, but then you were talking about how it can shift and change and, you know, do all these things along the course of time. So do you see your trajectory as, you know, a line where you have always had the underlying tenet of being a physician, and then you've had these different interests that have come off that? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely, because what you're talking about is my tree. When I was about 9 or 8 or 9, and I found this tree that I called my tree. It was an oak tree, a young oak that was growing right out of the hillside where I used to run up and down and play and all, in the Himalayas. But it was just that the trunk was just the right size that I could put my arms around it. And I started inching out onto that trunk. The thing about it was over a cliff that was, the ground was 1,000 feet down below. This was way up there. So, but I was inching out, and I was looking for something, and I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew it was out there. And so I would inch out little by little, because I had to be very careful that I didn't wiggle. And when I saw what it was, I would start inching back. And I didn't know what that was until somebody said something about the horizon. And I didn't know what the horizon was, but I knew that's what I was looking for. And now, at 102, I begin to see what it was I was looking for was this horizon, which is global. because I knew my parents were down 1,000 feet below me doing their work, and that was important. But there was something else way, way, way out there that I was looking for too. And I think that's what I'm beginning to see now.
Wow. And all, wow, that's really expansive, no pun intended, but it's such an expansive way of just looking at your life. And yeah, that feels very big in my heart. That's beautiful.
Well, and I think we have all have an opportunity for something like that we can keep reaching for, because it's within each one of us. We're divine beings.
Yes.
And it's this amazing divinity that is calling us.
Yeah, wow. That's so good. That is so good. I love just the idea, the vision of, like, in my mind's eye, of seeing you as a little girl on this tree and just looking out across, and the depth below and the depth across. I mean, that's really just so huge.
And the only time I could see the horizon was when the leaves would get in the right place.
Oh.
Then when that would happen, I could back off and get off the tree.
Wow. Well, and then you end up in Arizona, where you have a nice big horizon, a big sky.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. And so the other thing I wanted to just touch on, because I know we're getting close to being done, but is just the timing of life and the timing of things. Because, and I know that I've mentioned this to you before and we've talked about it, but there's so many times along the way. I mean, you have been on this planet for a good long time, and I'm sure were times along the way that you wanted to give up. It was hard.
Oh,
like you worked through a lot of hard adversity to become a female medical doctor in the time that you did, and the marriage and the divorce, like all of the things.
Yeah.
And yet there's this urge that keeps us going, right? And so that's where we come back to this inner flicker, the inner physician, that desire for purpose and meaning in your life that just keeps you moving, even ever so slowly forward.
Yeah. Life has to move, and it keeps moving. If you keep moving with it, body, mind, and spirit, don't forget the body, we have to keep our bodies moving too.
Right. Right. And so if someone is in the moment of feeling really stuck and purposeless, what would you advise them to do to help move them along?
What popped into my head was get a jump rope. Remember when you were a kid and you jumped rope?
Yeah.
Well, boy, it changed all kinds of things for you while you were a visual, maybe you can't jump rope anymore, but visually, you can experience the juice that you got when you jumped rope, because there was, some kind of a song that was going with it.
Right.
And you had the people who had to flap the rope properly and all of this. I mean, it was a community effect, and you jumped through things, and then somebody would call you and you have to go home. So it's that kind of an idea of sometimes take some wackadoodle little thing that is maybe when you were a child, it kind of shook you up and allowed you to see things differently. But sometimes it's just something that you would love to do,
Mm,
or you just thought about it, just, whatever, latch on to it and see where it takes you.
right. So just find that little glimmer of something that just kind of blows a little oxygen onto your flame and makes
Right.
that flame just a tiny bit brighter, and just
Right.
go do that thing. And even if that thing is go buy an ice cream cone at the, wherever,
Yeah.
just go do it.
Enjoy it.
Right.
Be grateful for it.
Mm. Well, I think that that is a great piece of wisdom that everybody, it's, accessible to everybody, because it doesn't take anything. You don't have to have a lot of money. You don't have to be able to get in a car and go somewhere. It could be something as simple as dancing around in your room, or singing a song, or
jumping rope.
Yeah, jumping rope, or cooking a meal, or, just something like that. So you have always found those things to sort of bring you back,
Yeah.
and give you that strength to keep on going.
And so have you.
Mm. Yes, 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 yes. Well, on my last question for you today is, keep us posted on the stem cell.
Oh, well, I haven't gotten the third batch yet, but I'm going.
Okay.
Yeah, but I am going to have my eyes tested, because I think they're better. But like growth, as you watch a child grow, you don't see the child growing until you look at them and say, "Oh my, look how you've grown."
Right. Right. But so overall, you think that there has been improvement just in your overall being by having stem cell?
Yeah. I think that I'm stronger now than I was in some aspects of my body.
Yeah, that's great.
Right.
Mm.
So, but at least, I'm here.
Yes,
I can
you are.
still go up on my steps. I can still ride my tricycle and all of that. So
That is a beautiful thing. Well, are you done for the day, or do you have another interview this afternoon?
I have one more. Yeah.
Okay, well then I think we should let you go and go have some lunch and take a little rest before you have to do another interview. But I'm so glad that we got to get back on our Instagram Live and be here for everybody.
And let's see what we can do next week. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay,
All right.
so I will check in with you and John and see what your schedule looks like, and hopefully we will be back on track.
All right.
You have an amazing week. Thank you. Love you. So glad you were here, and so amazing all the work that you continue to do.
And thank you.
And we'll see you next week. So John, it's on to you to save it and give it a little title.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, everybody. Have a good week.